everyone. My name is Jenny Kwan. I'm the Member of Parliament for Vancouver East and the NDP critic for immigration, refugee, citizenship, and public safety, amongst other things. I'm going to be introducing our guests that are here today. First, we have Avi Lewis, the leader of the NDP. We have Vasinthi Venkatash, the Associate Professor, University of Windsor of the Faculty of Law. Nadia Abuzara from the University of Ottawa. Daniel Kamish from Oxfam Canada, and last but not least on Zoom, we have a student, a Palestinian student, Alaa, who will be joining us. And Alaa, of course, I should also note, was a student that came to Canada specializing in doing research on AI, and he is unfortunately not here in Canada at the moment. So with that, I'm going to ask our first speaker, Avi Lewis, to come to the podium.
Thank you, Jenny. Good morning, everyone. I'm honored and pleased to be here this morning to speak on this vital issue of importance to all Canadians. In just a few short months in these past years, 90,000 Palestinian students watched their education collapse as Israeli bombs destroyed all 12 universities in the Gaza Strip. It was a targeted attack on the future of the Palestinian people, a crime against knowledge, against education, against humanity. Showing incredible determination and resilience, more than 130 postgraduate students from Gaza wrote applications to Canadian universities, some of them on the move, displaced from their homes, struggling with internet access in bombed-out neighborhoods surrounded by war and starvation. After Israel destroyed those universities, almost 100,000 Palestinian students lost their right to education. And now more than 130 have applied and been accepted at Canadian universities. Nous avons été témoins de l'éradication presque complète du système d'éducation à Gaza, alors qu'Israël a bombardé 12 universités. Privés d'accès à l'éducation, 130 étudiants ont soumis des demandes à des universités au Canada et ont été acceptés. Ces étudiants font preuve d'un courage immense face à la guerre, au génocide et la destruction de leur communauté. Pourtant, aucun d'entre eux n'a été en mesure de venir au Canada. These are remarkable students at the top tier of their universities. They've received admission offers and scholarships to further their study in Canada at 26 different Canadian universities, but they have not been granted entry to Canada to pursue their studies. Many have already lost their offers or their funding and research opportunities. Others remain in limbo despite having everything in place to begin their studies. Worse still, 2 have been killed and at least 4 injured while they wait for their applications to be processed. This is shameful. The Liberal government knows full well that there are no functioning processing centers in Gaza for fingerprints, photos, and biometric identification like retinal scans. Despite that, these talented students have been stuck in processing hell for close to 2 years without any light at the end of the tunnel. What's even more disturbing is the fact that even those with completed biometrics are unable to get their study visas processed. Instead of working to resolve these issues, the Liberal government is actually imposing additional security screening requirements, even for students with everything else complete. There are some 27 students who have made their way out of Gaza to Egypt, and 2 still in Gaza, all of whom have completed their biometrics. And still they've been stuck in limbo for close to 2 years with no update on their applications. The government says there's nothing it can do, but that is not the case. Countries like the UK, France, Italy, and Ireland have all provided pathways for students in Gaza to come and study at their universities. Quand le gouvernement prétend qu'il n'y a rien à faire pour ces étudiants puissent rentrer au Canada, c'est faux. À travers l'Europe, il y a plusieurs étudiants de Gaza qui ont été évacués et ont commencé leur étude l'automne dernier. In fact, 16 students were evacuated from Gaza to Europe in 2025 with study permits issued within 2 weeks of receiving their admission letters. Those students are now furthering their education and making contributions to those countries. And in truth, Canada has solved this problem before. During humanitarian crises and invasion and war in Ukraine, Afghanistan, and Syria, the federal government implemented flexible policies, including exemptions, deferrals, and third country processing. En 2015, le gouvernement a accéléré le traitement des demandes pour les étudiants réfugiés de Syrie. Nous l'avons aussi fait pour des étudiants d'Afghanistan, puis plus récemment pour l'Ukraine. Il n'y a aucune raison pour laquelle les étudiants de Gaza ne devraient pas bénéficier des mêmes mesures. So the question is not whether or not solutions exist, it's whether this government has the political will to do the right thing. What the NDP is calling for is straightforward and achievable. First, allow biometric scans like fingerprints and retina scans to be completed in Canada. Second, provide temporary exemptions or deferrals. And third, create remote or alternative processing options. These are secure and humane alternatives that are both feasible and already in use around the world. Alternatives that ensure fair, timely decisions for qualified applicants who have already been accepted to Canadian universities. This is about justice, equitable treatment, and fundamental human rights. We're calling on the Carney government to treat these students with flexibility when it comes to these visa requirements, to treat these students as we have students fleeing violence in other countries. Le gouvernement libéral de Carney doit faire un choix moral. Face à un génocide et des crimes contre l'humanité, le Canada peut faire preuve de leadership international en traitant ses étudiants de la même manière que celles et ceux venant d'autres zones de conflit. It's time for our federal government to do the right thing and give these brilliant scholars a chance to study in Canada. These students are not asking for special treatment. They're asking for basic fairness and a modicum of compassion after all they have witnessed, after all they have lost, all they have done to build a life out of the chaos and rubble. They're asking to be treated as human beings who have the right to live, study, and flourish. Canada is a country that should give everybody that chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those words. Next, we'll have Vasenti to come. There we are.
Good morning, everyone. PASAR, Palestine Students and Scholars at Risk, was formed to support Gazan postgraduate students in accessing education in the midst of ongoing mass displacement, genocide, and destruction of all their universities. As highly accomplished students from Palestine have been admitted into prestigious programs in Canada, and they're now in administrative limbo within the Immigration Study Permit program. No response for months on end, no updates as they apply for deferral after deferral in our universities, waiting for Canadian immigration to respond. For example, Allah, from whom we'll hear soon, he has previously been approved for a visa. And he was in Canada in 2023 working on a research program. He's currently in Egypt. He has been admitted to a program, to a PhD program in electrical and computer engineering in Montreal, and he's been waiting for 23 months for a decision on his application. The ministry claims that the reason for this delay is because of inability to perform biometrics, which in and of itself is not a sufficient excuse because alternative arrangements can be made and have been made in the past for security clearance. But we see that it is a pretext because there are currently students in Egypt, about 30 students in Egypt who have done their biometrics and who are still waiting with no updates from IRCC. This processing delay is an abuse of process. It's a breach of basic procedural fairness. The courts have clearly stated that there is no excuse, let alone a specious excuse like this, for indeterminately delaying processing. The students, through resilience and fortitude, some of them are pursuing mandamus applications in courts to compel IRCC to decide on their cases. These students have been significantly prejudiced in the midst of destruction and death and displacement. But they've also been significantly prejudiced because they have lost offers in the universities, even as universities struggle to give them deferral after deferral in the midst of financial crisis. There are around 50 students currently on the verge of losing their offers if they're not able to come to join their programs during this academic year. It also marks systemic bias and discrimination on the part of the government, as applicants from one country, from one region, are treated significantly differently from others, even those who have been in crisis situations. This is a form of collective punishment and a presumption of guilt, which since the World War II, Canada has claimed that it does not engage in. It's also a breach of Canada's international law obligations, and as per the ICJ and as per United Nations resolutions. However, the government cannot state this bias openly. Instead, they leave these applicants in bureaucratic purgatory, subjecting them to administrative violence. This too is an abuse of process and a breach of procedural fairness. Lastly, Canada markets itself internationally as a country that respects the rule of law, equality, and inclusivity, and as a country for global talent to excel. But the Gazan student crisis has shown that this is patently false. It is not designed to support the most qualified applicants, or even to those whom Canada has basic obligations of decency and international law. Rather, it is designed to deter and drive away extraordinary students to other countries like the United Kingdom, Belgium, and Ireland. This is not only an indictment of our entire legal system, but it's an indictment of our academic system. Like several others, my research projects have been held in abeyance as I wait for this uniquely qualified student to join me from Gaza in pursuing this research. This loss that is caused by this illiberal and racist policy of administrative cruelty, because that's what this is, it is administrative cruelty, is Canada's loss, not just in both material ways as well as in reputational loss. But this loss is being incurred by our universities and the entire academic community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Nadia.
These students did not want to go to court. Legal action is a last resort after nearly 2 years of delay and unanswered requests. Students are navigating war, displacement, and uncertainty. Yet they are being asked to meet requirements that are impossible to fulfill in an active conflict zone. Many cannot access, not safely, biometric collection centres due to ongoing violence and movement restrictions. Others have already fled Gaza but remain stuck in third countries with completed applications and no decisions for nearly 2 years. As months have passed without progress, students have begun losing admissions, scholarships, housing arrangements, and research placements. Students are now forced to incur legal costs and additional emotional strain simply to obtain a decision on their applications. Canada has practical options available today. Canada can grant biometrics exemptions or defer biometrics until safe arrival in Canada or a third country. Another option, Canada can authorize mobile or partner-based biometrics collection. And a third additional option, Canada can coordinate evacuation and processing through trusted international partners. Organizations like the Red Cross and the International Organization for Migration have experience supporting secure processing and relocation in crisis contexts. But instead of using available tools, the government has effectively closed pathways, leaving students feeling abandoned. Canada has demonstrated flexibility in past crises by adapting processes quickly to respond to humanitarian needs. This situation is solvable. What is missing is the decision to act. We're here today to stand with these students and call for reasonable, lawful solutions that reflect Canadian values of fairness and compassion.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Daniel.
Good morning. Thank you so much, MP Kwan, for the introduction. Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for your excellent words, and thanks so much to my colleagues for delivering such compelling rationale for the government to act, and thank you for PSSAR for being such amazing advocates for these students. My name is Daniel Komish, and I'm the Manager of Policy and Advocacy at Oxfam Canada. This is my colleague, Mira. She's an engineer. Mira is a monitoring, evaluation, and learning specialist at Oxfam, working in Palestine, specifically in Gaza. Mira has been living in a tent for more than 2 years under bombs, occupation, famine, and genocide. She's been displaced more than a dozen times. She continues to work day after day because of a commitment to humanitarianism. 2 years ago, Mira was accepted at the University of Regina with a significant NSERC, federally funded, scholarship to do her master's in engineering. In 2 years, her application for a student visa hasn't moved. She's deferred her acceptance twice. It's likely that there won't be an opportunity to defer that acceptance a third time. Today's legal action reflects a breakdown of trust. When policies are applied inconsistently, it creates a perception of unequal treatment. Palestinian students have not been included in similar pathways and programs available to others facing the same conditions of war and displacement. In the same vein, IRCC's new 14-day processing program for PhD candidates reflects our government's commitment to ensuring that top talent is able to come to Canada to contribute to the academy and to the economy. It would be good policy if it wasn't discriminatory. Palestinian applicants are excluded. Never mind 14 days, they've been waiting for 2 years. We must reject the double standard and policy exclusion against Palestinian applicants. Anyone who is admitted to a Canadian university and applies for a study permit should be considered based on merit, not where they come from. To say all are welcome but not Palestinians is something we should hold our leaders accountable for. With every possible solution being refused, Canada has left these students no choice but to pursue legal avenues to obtain a response to their applications. These students are highly qualified researchers in fields like AI, medicine, law, and engineering, like my colleague Mira. Canadian universities and research institutions have already selected these candidates based on merit. Over 900 academics and more than 16,000 Canadians to date have called for action. Canada has the policy tools required to resolve these delays quickly and fairly. Here's what we're asking for: flexibility in the collection of biometrics, prioritized processing for complete applications, coordinated reviews across government, including IRCC, Public Safety, and Global Affairs, and transparent timelines and communication with applicants. Consistency in humanitarian response strengthens Canada's global credibility and reinforces commitments to equality and human rights. Addressing these delays is not only about supporting students, it is about ensuring Canada's policies reflect its stated values. And I talked to Mira last week. She shared a couple of words with me that I'll share with you on her behalf. Despite the hardships of living in Gaza alone, I never felt weak but motivated to provide more through my work at Oxfam. Now, as the war is almost over, I hope to equip myself with advanced skills so that I can return to the Gaza Strip with better knowledge to contribute to the efforts aimed at rebuilding our devastated infrastructure and fragile economy.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Last but not least, on Zoom, we have a student, a Palestinian student, is stuck in Egypt. Allah, over to you.
Hello everyone. Good morning. My name is Ala. I am doctoral student from Gaza, admitted to PhD in electrical engineering at ETS Montreal University. My academic journey reflected years of dedication, resilience, and belief in the power of the knowledge. I have contributed to 40 research publications in top-tier journals with hundreds of citations around the world. And my goal is advance next-generation communication and AI technology through my doctoral studies. I am deeply grateful to Canada and to ETS Montreal University for giving me this opportunity. To me, Canada represents fairness, dignity, and respect of knowledge. That is why I choose to pursue my PhD here. In 2019, I came to Canada for research, and my previous visa expired on 2023. I respected all the rules, and when my work was finished, I felt I left as required. I want to be very clear. I will do the same after my PhD. I am coming to study and to contribute and to return. That experience stayed with me. I felt welcome in Canada, respected and inspired, previously, of course. It made me believe that Canada is a place where people are judged by their knowledge, their work, and their potentials. With my current supervisors at ETS Montreal University, I worked tirelessly to develop a strong research proposal that effort earned me a prestigious FRQ scholarship. That's based on my work and my potential to contribute. But today, I stand here in Egypt for more than 23 months with a very different reality and difficult situation. The war in Gaza has been devastating. Like many others, I went through extremely difficult and painful circumstances. I was fortunate to reach safety, but I am still unable to move forward with my life. Also, my biometrics were already on my file from my previous visit on 2019. I have now been waiting for nearly 23 months without answer, without clarity, and why my future remains on hold. I want to continue my life. I want to continue my studies as a doctoral student. I want to contribute through my knowledge, but I cannot move forward without a decision. In November 2025, ILCC announced that it aims to process doctoral study permit application within just 2 weeks. When I heard that, I felt hope and happy. But today, after nearly 2 years, I am still waiting. As a doctoral student, I am shocked, I am disappointed, and I am asking, why does this not apply to me? I am not asking for a special treatment. I am just asking for fairness. I am asking for consistency. I am asking for a decision. Today, I am calling directly on the Prime Minister of Canada to take action. I am asking for leadership, for intervention and for a clear path forward for doctoral students like me. Countries like the United Kingdom have taken a step to support students in difficult situations. Canada can do the same. Canada should do the same. I need answer, I need clarity. I need to know if Canada still stands for the value that inspired me to choose it. Taking legal action was not my first choice, but after nearly 2 years of silence, I had no other option. Despite everything, I still believe in Canada. I believe in its value, and I believe it will do the right thing for me and for other high qualified doctoral students. All I am asking is simple: make a decision, let me move forward, let me begin my future, and thank you for everybody.
Thank you very much. And those are all our speakers. And I just want to thank the panel of speakers for speaking truth to power, for standing up for fairness and for justice. With that, we're open for questions from the media.
Hi, Mark Ramsey with the Toronto Star. Thanks for taking time. I guess first for Jenny or whoever else wants to answer this, I'm wondering, this has been an issue for about more than 2 years now. And as you've mentioned, they say the issues with the biometric screening. You've been calling for flexibility for a while. What is it? Why is it that they can't give that flexibility? What is it that they say in response to the request for that?
Well, I'll simply say that the Liberal government, the Carney administration, is refusing to act because there is a lack of political will. They are, from my perspective, applying unequal standards for these students. And frankly, the way in which they're proceeding is discriminatory. They are advancing initiatives and processes with these students that's different than anyone else. As we know, the government has already talked about about their 14-day application processing for PhD students. But that does not apply here. We have situations, even when they say biometrics is the issue, but we have students whose biometrics have been completed, yet they still refuse to complete the processing of those visa applications. Why is that? There is no justification for it. We have a student, Ala, who's come to Canada before, whose biometrics has gone through before, who left Canada without incident, and who's wanting to return and to support our Canadian academic institutions in their research, and yet his application is not getting processed. Almost 2 years they've waited. What is the justification? Frankly, there is none. I will also say this: the international community have gone forward with workarounds, with different approaches to address the issue of biometrics, if that is the problem. How is it possible that the UK can process an application within 2 weeks of getting offers from university, and then Canada, after 2 years, we still cannot finish the processing? There is no justification.
Does anyone else want to weigh in?
I could just add, on the biometrics piece, we understand that flexibility will require a cabinet decision. So cabinet ministers, if you want to advance some flexibility on the biometrics piece, that's up to you. It's not only the biometrics. We understand that these students are undergoing an extra layer of security screening. That's a black hole. That's at public safety. That's a black hole. We can't get any information on what that looks like. Other students are not going through that added layer of security screening at public safety. So when we're calling for transparency on these applications, that's a part of it as well, is what's going on at public safety. What is this additional security screening, and why is it taking 2 years?
Actually, I'm just going to add one other point. IRPA, which is the immigration regulation that governs a lot of these processes, and it specifically indicates that where biometrics cannot be attained, that the government can apply alternative measures. And that's the issue. We have seen alternative measures put in place before in other conflicts, in other war conflicts that has taken place. So why will the government not apply those different measures here? It is the lack of political will and, frankly, mistreatment and unfair treatment for these students.
I just want to say one point, that this discourse on biometrics is a distraction. Because if it was about biometrics, then what about all the students who have managed to escape to Cairo or even to Jordan? So what we see then is, we have to call it for what it is, systemic anti-Palestinian racism. And that is what this embodies, because there are standards. It's not that security interests cannot be taken into account in IRPA or in any other process. But what the law says is that security interests or public interests, there has to be evidence for imminent threat. There has to be evidence that there is a serious risk to Canadians, or even a probable risk of safety or of security to Canadians. In this case, these students have got no updates, no correspondence. So what they have is basically bureaucratic purgatory. That's that's the only way to frame it for what it is. And so this is not this is, if anything, it's a willful incompetence. That's what we can call this as within the legal system.
Maybe as a follow-up, I'm just wondering if, yesterday we had a minority government, today we have a majority government. Do you think that are you worried that will reduce the will to kind of be cooperative on things like this if it's not on the government's agenda, and I know it's not a legislative matter, but that they no longer need to rely on goodwill between other parties? Is there any concern with that?
Well, with the by-election being completed, I would say this. This should not be a partisan issue. It should not be an issue about whether or not the NDP wants to see this done. This should be done because it is good for Canada, because it is fair, it is just. That's why it should be done. I would hope that those who are coming to the House of Commons as members of Parliament after the by-election will stand up for justice, will stand up and speak truth to power. And I challenge them to do exactly that within the Liberal government. Join the community, join the professors, the academic community, join humanitarian communities, those who are fighting for not just us, but humanitarianism for the globe. This is what it is about, and it is about a fight for knowledge and for our future. So I would say to those that are entering into the Liberal caucus to do exactly that. There is a reason why we enter into politics. There's a reason why I enter into politics. And it is to fight for people, to fight for justice, to stand up for what is right and for basic human rights. So I challenge anyone within the Liberal Party to do just that.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for this press conference. Merci, c'est tout le temps que nous avions pour cette conférence de presse. This concludes the press conference. C'est ce qui met fin à la conférence de presse.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.